Yeah, welcome to this tutorial. And this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to use the W3 CSS responsive classes. Now this is the most critical part of this tutorial. That's why I'm going to be using one of the resources I used to code, which is W3 School, the offline version, and I'm going to be using it to teach you how to use W3 CSS responsive. And I'm going to be using that for layout 2 and for grid, W3 grid. Now I want you to pause this video and look carefully at what is in front of you. I mean this page specifically, this place. What do you see? Is half is quarter, two quarter, two quarter, then we have 3/4, 2/3. All right. Wait, before you understand the place, let me show you this place. Now the W3 CSS responsive class is grid system is responsive. I'm reading this. Is responsive, and the columns will rearrange automatically depending on the screen size. Now the W3 half occupies half of the window. The W3 third occupies the classes. They are trying to explain the classes. The W3 half occupies up to half of the window. On medium, take note of this, on medium and large screens, W3 third occupies 1/3 of the window on medium and large screens. What they mean with all this is that when you use W3 half, the window will be divided into two parts, and your content, all the content that you put under any element that you use W3 half for, will be in one of the halves of the window. You understand it later. The same thing is what they mean for all this. That's why here you can see that this half, this quarter, this, the rest two are quarter, this quarter, and this 2/3. They are trying to show you how much each of them, by the green, black, how much space each of them takes. Can you see on a screen? What you see here is a screen. You can get that on the screen, and how you can leverage on them to make layout and responsive responsive web page. Look at this too, look at this, 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 look at this. It's just a matter of using the classes. And here you see something as w3rest. That is, when you use w3rest, if you use this in combination with this, you will see the effect. Let's continue so that you can understand more. W3 column, it defines one column in a 12-column responsive grid. You understand this too later. You already know what W3 mobile is. It displays element as block element on mobile devices. Now let's continue. The responsive classes above must be placed inside a W3 row class or W3 row padding class, be fully responsive. Now if you want a responsive page, you want to use all these responsive classes, you have to place them inside a W3 row class. That is, you have to first of all define an element that will use W3 row, and that will use W3 row, and that will be W3 row, that will have a W3 row class, and then in that element you put maybe W3 half, W3, you put all the classes, the responsive class that you want to use. You may try to, let's assume you want to mix all this together. Now you want to use this like this in your window, or you want to use this like this in your window. The first thing that you have to do is to declare is to set a class for an element which is W3 row or W3 padding class, so that you can be able to put all this inside, and through that you'll be able to style a responsive web page. W3 CSS is responsive built-in. It is responsive built-in. Now the difference between W3 row and W3 row padding is that if it is W3 row that you use, between the grids, between the columns, there will be no spaces. But if you use row padding, it will add a padding 8px left and right to the columns, and W3 content is used for fixed size centered content. And when you use W3 hide small, W3 hide medium, W3 hide large, W3 hide small hides an element on small screens less than 601 pixels. W3 hide medium hides content on medium screens. W3 large class adds content on larger screens, and that is when you use W3 large on larger screens. It will hide the content for larger screens. If you use W3 hide medium, it will hide the content for medium screens, and if you use W3 hide small, it will hide content from small screens, small devices. And this is responsive sizes for large class. Responsive sizes for large class. Responsive sizes. These are responsive. This is L1 to M1, M1 to M12, S1 to S12. These responsive sizes for large screens, responsive sizes for medium screens. You can use each of them to understand this better. Now, these are some examples for, can you see, W3. You have to pause this video so that you can see the effect. This is the effect of W3 half class. Can you see the code? Can you see how it was used? Can you see this is the effect being displayed here? If I click try it yourself, you see. Can you see this one here, this one here? Now let me try to resize this window. You see, can you see it collapse and become a block level element? You can see that half. Now the same thing, pause this video so I can see the code. The same thing applies to this. Can you see W3 third? Can you see what happens here? Resize the windows. Can you see what it becomes? Another one here, 2/3. They mix 2/3 and third together. Can you see? The same thing applies to this. Can you see? The same thing applies to this. You can pause the video so that you can look at the codes. The same thing applies to all these that they combine together. It is just the same thing. Example, W3 half inside W3 half. They put one half inside another half. Can you see? It's just one half and another half. W3 half, W3 half, W3 half, W3 half. This is a half. From this place to this place is an half. This place to the other side is an half. Then in them also they use the W3 half also in them, so that it will be different from each other and you'll be able to have different columns. Now this column and using the W3 rest. Can you see that here they use W3 rest instead of maybe W3 half or something? That is, W3 rest we occupy the rest of the window, and when you use the W3 code, can you see they star it to 150 pixels. You need to star it so that it can work well. Can you see? There is the W3 rest. Can you see? This is how it works, and let's move on. Can you see? They use just columns, W3 row and then columns. You want to create columns. This is a simple way to create columns. Can you see? W3 column, W3 column. Then they all the window size, all the window size is 100%. Now you can group those 100% into W3 column. You can use 20, 60, making 80, then another 20, making 100. Can you see? That makes what? A column. So you can put all the content of your web page in just this div, within this div, within this div, within this div, and they will be separated into columns. Can you see a simple way to create columns now? Let's see how the W3 content works. Can you see how the W3 content works? Now W3 row versus W3 row padding. This is what W3 row can do. It groups this image together. This is what W3 row padding will do. I suggest that for anyone who wants to use W3 row, they should use W3 row padding, except on different occasions. You get that? Now, this W3 stretch. This is an example with stretch. This is an example without stretch. Can you see the difference? And now let's move to W3 hide and show. That is W3 hide small, hide medium, hide large. Now let me use the terrace as an example to show you what that is. Okay, can you notice, do you notice a change? If I draw it back now, do you notice the change? Do you notice the change? Do you notice the change? So that's how it works. Because okay, you can pause this video so that you can see the code. On smaller screens, this will change to green. On medium screens, this will change to red. This will be red. And on, can you see, on larger screens it will be green. Just for changes, they hide the elements. You can pause this video so that you can see the code very well, so you can see how it works. And then let's continue in the W3 mobile class. This W3 mobile class, let me resize this page for you. Can you see how it becomes block? And these are screen resolutions. These are screen resolutions for small phones. You don't actually need this. So, and you can pause this video so that you can see the code and look more at the example. That's what you should do as a student. This is the end of this tutorial. These are the layout that you can also use for your coding. Thank you for watching this tutorial. See you in my next tutorial.